Freedom is not a gift bestowed upon us by other men, but a right that belongs to us by the laws of God and nature. That quote comes from Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of this now-deceased country. It's a nice sentiment, but what happens when freedom is sought out by those who were not created by God or nature, but by man? They call this path the Freedom Trail, but for the runaway synths who find it, it's a far cry from liberation. The true path to freedom is no easy walk in the park. The story of civilization is one marred by oppression and slavery in one form or another. Many of us who wish to live free will have to wade through the sewers numerous times before we reach liberty's light. I've been in the Commonwealth long enough to know that something's lurking beneath the surface of this land. And it ain't just mole rats and mirelurks. They call themselves the Railroad, and they believe that Institute synths are equal to humans in all respects. That belief is a dangerous one to have in a Commonwealth dominated by the Institute. But the Railroad does their best to help hopeful runaways, just like those ancient freedom fighters rescuing slaves from the American South. Only in this case, they wipe their minds, implant new memories, and change their faces to aid in that escape. It's true, the Railroad's methods can be a bit extreme, but they would argue that such measures are sometimes called for when your enemy is as well equipped as the Institute. Subterfuge is their skill, but if they can't get it done quietly, they can do it loud. They might not hold a candle up to the Minutemen, but they have access to custom-made weapons firing railway spikes at high velocities, leather coats lined with ballistic fiber, handmade Gauss coil guns firing standard 2mm EC rounds. They're small, but pack a mean punch when they need to. Those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must, like men, undergo the fatigue of supporting it. This statue was made to honor a man who understood that. Back before the United States became a formal nation, it was a fledgling colony fighting a war for independence. Although the empire it served under was much larger than itself, it proved a thorn in Britannia's side long enough to gain its freedom. The American colonies were clearly the underdog of that story, much like the Railroad are the underdogs today. Clearly outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched, they've proven a thorn in the Institute's side for decades, saving just enough synths to be a nuisance, but not enough to be a threat. And though the Institute squashed them like a bug several times, they keep coming back. They learned how to control information after 2266. So well, in fact, they have no idea where they come from. We know that the Railroad operates an extensive network of associates and safe houses. It's all safe and secure now, it seems, but back in '66, everything was connected. Apparently nobody ever told the Railroad that it's always a bad idea to put all your eggs in one basket. The Institute only had to raid a single safe house for everything to unravel. The end result was about a dozen survivors and no infrastructure. But they're stubborn and they rebuilt, till the Institute found them again in 2273. They hit them after the Railroad helped an entire work crew disappear. A runner, John D., helped evacuate their headquarters, so they managed to get away without too many casualties. But that was still at square one. You see, the biggest problem the Railroad had is that it always operated at a disadvantage, and most of its leaders underestimated their enemies. They needed someone with a vision, someone who understood espionage and the fine art of reconnaissance. Someone like Desdemona. Desdemona is the one who implemented operational security hard with the Railroad. Compartmentalized information, dead drops, reflecting on the past, and fixing mistakes. I wager she's the reason the Railroad's still afloat since she became its head in 2277. With strong leadership, the Railroad expanded and grew to new heights as an organization, adding more and more members to its HQ. I know about Glory and Tinker Tom. One's a synth, the other a human casualty of an Institute attack. The latter makes all the fancy toys the Railroad has. The former uses them. Still, it didn't help them much when the Institute attacked again in 2281. The new OPSEC helped them limit the damage, but they found the switchboard. It's apparently some kind of a pre-war DIA facility. The Defense Intelligence Agency was notorious for its black ops, it seems, and had some of the most advanced technology at the government's disposal. They were rumored to have caches and secret bases across the United States, and with what we've seen thus far, this might even be true. The railroad also recovered something called a PAM, a predictive analysis machine. From what little I know, it was supposed to be some kind of fortune teller, except it actually worked. Through whatever science the pre-war would put in this machine, they were able to feed data into it and receive anything they wanted, number crunching and analysis far beyond human minds. So they used the machine for their own ends to help them survive and save synths. Getting synths away from the Institute is only half the job. The way in which the railroad gives synths new identities is messy, to say the least. Facial reconstruction isn't even the worst of it. The railroad deems it necessary to wipe their memories clean so they can live new lives. What do you think, Edna? Is the railroad giving them freedom or merely replacing reality with a lie? Is a synth truly free if they are merely acting on the memories implanted in them, be they Institute or railroad? That's a question for the scholars in all of us, I suppose. It seems someone in the Institute feels there's a distinction between Pam and this patriot helping them from the inside since '84. The railroad's got a target painted on their backs. They've been growing like never before, and if they're not careful, well, the Institute already managed to push them back by taking that switchboard and flooding it with old synths. And since the railroad doesn't know where the Institute is located, they're in a losing position. And secret wars are nothing new. The bickering powers of the old world would spy on each other all the time, gathering information and keeping an eye on each other. I know it sounds cliché, but knowledge is power, Edna. The Institute and the railroad understand that too. They remind me of two other pre-war factions who kept tabs on each other. One's was a chest-pounding juggernaut, and the other preferred subterfuge in order to achieve their goals. Each one could kill the other anytime they wanted. But that is a story for another day.